Alright everybody, hello, greetings and welcome everyone to this video. Today I'm going to talk about a topic that I don't see a lot of people talking about. What if Aptera doesn't make it? I'm going to come at this through an exercise, a thought exercise that has more than one angle to it. And the most important thing to remember is that I'm going to forget something. This is where you wonderful people come into play. If you hear something that I forgot, or you think that more context can be added, please discuss it in the comments below. I am more than happy to take the time to read and absorb the wonderful and unique viewpoints that are the Aptera community. If you like the video overall, please like and subscribe, YouTubey things. There is also a bell, so ring that to know when I release something new. First things first. In case you guys did not know, this is the second time Chris Anthony and Steve Fambro have tried to bring a vehicle like this to market. I say like this because the first vehicle was a hybrid, but the super aerodynamic shape, the simple and futuristic interior, and the over-the-top efficiency are all still well in effect here in Aptera 2.0. Long story short, the management team they found the first time around was not one that was able to bring their vision to life. So they are trying again and maintaining more control over the decisions made in the company so that the vision can be executed in a way that is consistent with their original vision. With a bit of context out of the way, we are back to our original question. What happens if Aptera doesn't make it? The first thing I'm going to do is talk about where we are now. According to the EPA, we are already on a trajectory that will have some impact on the environment as we know it. If we continue at exactly the same rate of emissions as now, for instance, the world will eventually warm enough to make real and long-lasting problems for the inhabitants of the planet, including humans. Fortunately for us, we are not maintaining the same levels of greenhouse emissions, at least in the US, according to the EPA's website. A direct quote says that annual US greenhouse gas emissions fell 12% between 2005 and 2019. This trend was largely driven by changes in electric generation. Coal use has declined, the use of natural gas and renewable technologies has increased, leading to a 40% drop in emissions from the electricity sector. Since 2017, the transportation sector has overtaken electricity generation as the largest emitter. Yeah, good times there. This set of charts was taken directly from the EPA website and will cover my face and break down our current progress on the matter. The picture on the top right breaks down what is happening to 5 metrics the EPA uses to measure the overall change in climate and the direction of those changes. With very minimal exceptions, the basic theme is that the annual temperature, number of warm nights, annual precipitation, sea level, and heavy precipitation are all increasing. The top right chart is particularly interesting to me because they estimate how much each degree of change will affect the various types of extreme weather events. It appears that there will be diminishing consequences to all of these things at some point if nothing changes, but the fact does not change that all of these types of extreme weather conditions cost lives, and a constant increase in these types of disasters will undoubtedly cause all sorts of less than ideal issues with the economy. The cost of doing nothing or not enough will be devastating compared to the cost of making the required changes to keep our planet both comfortable and habitable. The bottom right chart has a breakdown of the past temperature changes annualized. It also projects, based on what we do as a country, where the temperature will go. What struck me here is that even in the very low scenario, that is, if we decrease our emissions in drastic and meaningful ways across the board, we won't start seeing temperatures come down until the 2090 time frame or so. That essentially means that We have already done so much damage that it will take nearly 70 or so years for the issue to begin to subside. Drastic immediate change will improve the situation for our grand and great-grandchildren, essentially. Okay, now that we have that context for where the country is, spoiler alert, the rest of the world is doing about the same, with different metrics doing slightly better or worse. I'm not going to go through all of the countries of the world because obviously that will make this video extremely long. The next thing I'm going to do is characterize where I believe the auto industry is based on my current level of knowledge. Since I am essentially an applied mathematician, I'm going to come at this in a way that I thought was easier for me to digest, and that will hopefully resonate with all of you out there as we move forward here. In my estimation, the American auto industry is going to very soon come to an impasse, if that impasse hasn't already arrived, and they are kicking the can down the road, so to speak. This impasse is thus: bigger, heavier vehicles are unsustainable. Even in using the word unsustainable, I can hear the keyboards through the ether, so I think it is prudent to talk about what I mean by unsustainable specifically. According to my research, there are two main reasons that the way travel is done now is unsustainable or untenable in the US. The first being transport as we know it is depleting finite resources. The vast majority of cars use oil or electricity produced through oil. Oil cannot, at least in any sustainable amount, be recycled. So with the oil we have on hand right now, there is a supply of roughly 50 years, and then we will essentially be out of oil. I didn't include unverified oil wells and the like because it isn't certain, but let's be really generous and say that we have another 50 years of oil in the ground. This gives us, again, very generously, 100 years of fuel and more than enough carbon emissions to cook ourselves in our own atmosphere, which leads me into the second reason. The way we are using those resources will eventually cause an issue that could end life as we know it. Yeah, a mere 12 of those generous 100 years of burning fossil fuels at our current rate would be enough to cause irreparable damage to our atmosphere and our climate. Aptera is coming at these problems described above at the right angle. They are making small, affordable vehicles that are easy on the grid and lightweight, so they use less energy and materials. They are using the power of the sun to charge their electric vehicles and lessen the impact on the grid. The auto industry is making a small step in the right direction, the acute angle. The auto industry as a whole is taking more and more steps towards green energy and electric vehicles, although those steps are slowed down as of late. The thought process being that cars and trucks as they are now and as we have known them for quite some time just need to be electrified. That thought process has allowed electric vehicles to balloon in size to the point where, in some cases, they have efficiencies that are even less than some gas cars of a similar class. The result of the moves the auto industry is making right now could essentially end up as more of the same with different types of energy, namely electrical instead of chemical, at the user level, leading the way to our demise. I assert that, at the moment, there is an acute lack of awareness of the meaning of the transition to electric vehicles in the minds of the broader auto industry. That is not to say that some companies don't get it, but unless more companies are willing to do what it takes, more of the same may end up being less overall security for future generations. Tesla is a very common topic of conversation when it comes to companies doing the right thing for the planet. Staying true to their mission of accelerating our transportation to clean energy is certainly something I agree with. However, I will say that the overall want to be an alternative to gas cars of old, they may have flown too close to what the auto industry is now, and slightly less close to what would make the most impact for such a transition. In mimicking the shape and production methods of prevailing wisdom about auto manufacturing, they have missed the trees for the forest, I suppose. Don't get me wrong, their improvements on the process and the methods of production are not to be scoffed at, and the engineering feats that made these improvements possible are nothing short of awe-inspiring for an outsider looking in like myself. The fact remains that in my head, doing what is adjacent to the most popular, while successful, is not what is going to get us out of our current situation in a timely enough fashion. Alright, now that you guys have context for where my head is at, I will give you my personal predictions with respect to what could happen if Aptera does not make it. The way I decided to do this is to speak on 3 scenarios that seem most likely to me. The best case, the medium case, and the worst case. The best case scenario, if Aptera were to fail, in my opinion, would be that other automotive companies took notes on what Aptera was and they decided to roll the ideas and thought processes into their own. Now, if you guys feel like that sounds far-fetched, I submit to you that the automotive industry already does that all of the time within the confines of suppliers. The most popular features and innovations, perhaps most importantly cheapest manufacturing methods created by any given company, make it into the vehicles of their competitors. I would say look up the history of VTEC if you still need convincing, but for a more recent example, Ford, GM, and many others just showed us firsthand that if something is just that much better, they will integrate it into their vehicles in order to avoid losing market share, a la the Tesla connector. NACS? NACS is what it is now, so we're going to call it NACS. Aptera, in spite of what some folks would have you believe, is one of the most anticipated pre-production vehicles of all time. 46,000 reservations is nothing to sneeze at, and under the best case scenario, the automotive industry would ideally make these efficiency and sustainability changes happen quickly, and the face of the auto industry would change in a few years to smaller, lightweight, more aerodynamic vehicles, from the smallest passenger cars to the biggest semi-trucks. The world would become a place of sunshine and rainbows, and no one would ever have to suffer the result of greenhouse gas emissions because there would be none except for what naturally occurs. This is the least likely scenario in my personal opinion, at about maybe an 8% chance. The medium case scenario. The medium case scenario, if Aptera were to fail, and in my opinion the most likely scenario by far, based on where we are now, would be that the auto industry would not take notes. Tesla would continue to drive vehicles to be more efficient and realize that, as an inventor, they have a responsibility to make the changes required to show everyone else how it's done. Actually, they already kind of have come to this conclusion, in my opinion. But the breadth and impact of that good influence has yet to be fully realized. I believe they will lean into this mindset even more and eventually come to a point where they make something very close to the Aptera, if not outright buy the rights to the Aptera IP directly, and the movement Aptera has started will move on in some form or another until the reduction realized in greenhouse emissions puts us on a trajectory where humans' safety can be eventually secured. In this scenario, I would imagine that the price to society, and let's be real, the poorest and middle class in the form of destroyed homes, livelihoods, and lives, would be way bigger than what any rational human should be okay with, but humanity as a whole would probably be okay. I believe that this is the most likely scenario currently at about an 80-ish% chance. For the worst case scenario, I need to put a little more context into this situation. I believe Aptera failing at this point in history could be, in the worst case scenario, an indicator of a greater mindset in society and the ruling powers of the world. That mindset would be that affordable lightweight EVs are either undesirable to the consumer or unwanted by powerful corporations and special interests living comfortably and profitably at the top, and making the status quo a thing. Lobbying for the preservation of fossil fuel burning cars would be successful, and as a result the transition to EVs would be hampered if that mentality becomes the prevailing ideology, which really paints a bleak picture. Tesla's sales overall could stagnate and level off at a point far below the 20 million per year goal, probably something like 3.5 million. The world would continue to warm until we reach a point where increases in entropy would cook the planet and its inhabitants in less than 100 years. That may be it may be possible for some of humanity to occupy another planet in that time, but the likelihood of being able to save more than a few thousand humans is very small in this scenario. Yeah, so that was basically the thought processes that I had with respect to what could happen if Aptera does not make it. Now, I'm going to be clear here and state that I do believe that there is a very strong likelihood that Aptera will make it, and in fact they will be one of the more prolific auto industry contenders in a very long time. But yeah, this thought exercise was kind of brought on by the fact that nobody is talking about the very real consequences of what efficient vehicles failing could mean for the future of humanity. Thank you guys so much for watching. Once again, I am the Ninjaneer. If you would like to like and or subscribe and or do the other YouTubey things, throw a comment in the bottom there, share the video, all those things. Please do those things. And I will catch you guys next time, where we probably will have another news update depending on the situation. I might have to do another one of these thought pieces every week alongside the news videos. I'm trying to make sure that I'm releasing enough content. Once a week is fantastic and it fits my schedule, but I noticed that in general the people that I talk to that like face-to-face that have an affinity for my channel tend to say something like, oh, are you going to talk about this topic or that topic? So yeah, here we are talking about this topic. That topic will be for another day. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time.